Okay, hello Year 12s. Hope you've had a wonderful weekend. And just to make that weekend that extra little bit special, I'm here to talk for 10 or 15 minutes about maths. So now you're going to love that. In all seriousness, no, this is going to look at basically how to start doing your DI. This might be able to help you when I'm not here for our lesson tomorrow on Monday. So as we said the other day, on Friday, the idea behind this DI is, well, pretty obscure, but the basic start of it is that you've got $20,000 to spend. You're going to buy shares in 4 different companies, and you're going to see how those shares perform over time. Now, the idea here is that when you choose your 4 different companies, you actually give it some thought. So you maybe have a look at some news websites, have a look at Yahoo Finance like this, see which names are coming up as being good. So for instance here, if I look here, Virgin Australia records $98.1 million loss. Well, you wouldn't be buying shares in that. So look at which ones are doing well and maybe use them. It's important that when you do your DI, you are able to give some sort of explanation for why you picked the shares you did. If you just go, oh, I don't know, I just picked the first 4 that came into my head, that's going to cost you a little bit on marks, even if all your maths is perfect. And what you probably also want to do as well is diversify your shares, and what that means is that you don't buy shares in all of the same type of company. So let's say you bought shares in Jeans West, you wouldn't buy shares in Just Jeans or Billabong or other clothing companies as well. You want to try and spread it out. Buy shares in a retail company like Jeans West, also buy shares in a mining company, buy shares in a telecommunications company like Telstra or Optus, and maybe buy shares in a bank like the National Australia Bank. That way you're spreading the risk around. If the banks do badly, maybe the mining companies are doing well, so you're evening things out. Alright, so you need to justify why you're buying shares. I'm not going to bother doing that, but I will show you how to get this information that you need. So I'm on Yahoo Finance. There is the ASX website as well. Troy seems to think Google Finance is pretty good. I haven't really had time to have a look at that. But I'm just going to have a look at how to get the information for Telstra. Now, when you type Telstra in there, you get a whole bunch of different options, and that's because you can also buy shares in Telstra on foreign exchange markets. You can also sometimes buy what's called futures as well, which I can't see any futures here. You basically want the top result because that's the most common one. And in this case it says equity, and equity basically means shares, and it's Australian, so that's what we want. Click on that. And then once I do that, it comes up with a screen that has a whole bunch of information. I remember you can look at the chart of share prices over time, or you can get the information in a table form. Now I'm not going to have a look at how to do the share price at the moment. I'm going to look at the historical prices. I'm going to get the prices of the share from day to day in a table form. So I'm going to click on that. Now just going back to my notebook here. Look at that beautiful handwriting. We were supposed to have done this across 5 weeks, like collect information every day for 5 weeks, but that just seemed stupid. Waste of time. So we're going to pretend we did. If we had done it, remember, we would have started on Friday the 26th of July, and we would have gone up to Friday the 30th of August, which was last Friday just been. So what we want to do, when you buy the shares, you're supposed to have bought them on the 26th of July, so we need the prices in these companies, which I've already written down here, but the prices in the 4 companies you pick on the 26th of July. So going back to Telstra here, if you want to do that, you click on historical prices like I've just done. The box up the top here will give you a start date and an end date. I'm going to change the start date to the 26th of July 2013. I'm going to press get prices. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom of the page. And there we go. Now what we want is the column that says close. It's this one. That's roughly what you'd be buying for. So let's have a look. $4.92. So that would be considered to be the price that you pay for shares in that company. And there we go. So I picked 4 companies at random. I've tried to diversify things a little bit. But I went for JB Hi-Fi, NAB, Rio Tinto, and Telstra. Just excuse the really poor handwriting. It's just I'm trying this new digital tablet for writing with, and it's not very good. So once you've found the prices, the second thing you have to decide, you have $20,000 to spend. You have to work out how you're going to split that $20,000 up between the different companies. My suggestion would be, think of it like, how much percent of my money am I going to spend on each? So you've got 100% to spend altogether. How many of that 100% are you going to spend on each company? So again, you would probably want to justify your percentages. Like, you know, I chose to spend this percentage on JB Hi-Fi because I just picked numbers at random. So I went for 10%, 40%, 30%, and 20%, as you can see here. Once you've done that, then you need to work out, well, if I'm spending that much, how many shares does that buy me? So I might just do an example calculation for JB. Okay. Alright, so the first thing, we need to work out how much money we actually have to spend. So it's 10% of $20,000, which is $2,000. So you have $2,000 to spend. How many shares can I get for $2,000? Well, the first thing you have to do is work out basically the cost of a single share. Now, what I'm going to do here, when I explained it on Friday, I did a really stupid way of doing it. Yeah, it was just a really dumb way. There's an easy way of doing it than that. I might just have a look at it now. You do it like this. It's cost of a single share. Now the cost of a single share is going to be equal to the consideration plus the brokerage plus the GST. Remembering that the brokerage, the task sheet tells you, is 20%. Sorry, not 20%, 2%. 20% would be exorbitant. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just use the symbol P for the consideration, right? That would be the cost before you add on brokerage and all of that of a single share in this particular company. So for JB, that would be $18.02. That's what it costs before you add on brokerage and GST. So that would be P for consideration. And then the brokerage is like 2% or 0.02 of the consideration. So in other words, it's 0.02 times P, or 0.02p, using algebra. And then the GST, whoops, I won't do it that way. The GST we know is always 10%, and it's always 10% of the brokerage itself, not the cost of the shares. So GST is going to be 0.1, so that's 10%, times the brokerage. Now we've just seen that the brokerage itself can be written as 0.02p, so that would mean that the GST would be 0.01 times that. Whoops, should be a plus sign. Now 0.1 times 0.02p. I'm just kind of doing this the long way so that we understand where this magic number I'm going to pull out comes from. Okay, and 0.1 times 0.02 is 0.002, so it's going to become P plus 0.02p plus 0.002p. Now we're almost ready to add it together. The one thing you have to remember here in something like algebra, if you have a p, that's the same as having 1p. Because remember, the number at the front means times. You just don't normally put in the 1 because it doesn't make much difference. So it's 1p plus 0.02p plus 0.002p. Now remember, in algebra you just add the numbers in front together and then whack a p on the end. So this would be 1.022p. So what I've got there is the cost of a single share when you take into account brokerage and GST, and that's what you're. So it's a more realistic figure, and that's what you need to use to be able to do this calculation. So for JB, I'm going to do this. It's going to be that magic number again, 1.022 times by P. Now P was the cost of a single share, so in this case for JB it's $18.02. So let me zoom in a bit here, it's going to be a bit silly. Okay, so I worked that out. Just let me grab my calculator or something similar. And that gives me, I'm going to include every decimal point for the time being, like you would round off obviously at the end. But in this case I'm going to include every decimal place. So the total cost, including brokerage and GST, is 18.41644. Now, once I know that, I can work out the number of shares I buy in the company very easily. I just do this. The amount of money I have to spend altogether, which is $2,000 in this case, divided by the cost of a single share, factoring in brokerage and GST. Hang on a sec, just hang out here. And when I do that, I get 108.60 shares. Obviously, I can't buy 108.6. And I can't spend any more than 2,000 I have. So 2,000 will buy me that much. I can't buy 109 because I need more than 2,000. So I round down. And there you go. So I've just bought 108 shares in that company if I have $2,000. So I hope that makes a bit of sense. It's a lot easier way of doing it than what we looked at previously. So you're going to want to do that for each of the companies that you decide to buy shares in and go through those calculations. And that should keep you busy throughout your Monday lesson, and then we will continue on with it when we get back on Tuesday. So thank you for your time. Sorry it was so very, very, very boring, and I'll see you bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on Tuesday.